Hello, everybody, and welcome to Don't Get Your Hopes Up. Today, we're going to talk about things, about stuff, and then we're going to talk to Lore about, some other stuff, about his microphone being extremely shitty last week.
Is this like... It's like Indian Kermit the Frog. What is this? I'd like a madras, please.
It was what was it? I didn't know there was like Indian twins to that. I didn't put that in there. It was kind of a crappy Grover. It was a late night Grover. But I thought it was pretty good, man. I don't know. I read the book, the monster at the end of this book.
Little bit Cookie Monster in there.
The monster at the end of this book, you know. And like Grover's all like,
So there's a monster at the end of this book.
and then like you go through the pages, he's like, ah, stop turning pages, right? And he's all freaking out. And they get to the end of the book, and he's all like, oh shit, I'm the monster. Oh, what? I'm the monster. And you're
That's
like,
some
oh,
M. Night
shit.
Shyamalan shit right there.
That shit blew my mind when I was 4.5.
Sixth Sense.
So
I was the monster the whole time.
So yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I felt like, you know.
Well, that's good.
That's a great way to kind of break the ice after we delivered a relatively under par quality
Yeah.
video or audio feed last time.
Yeah, so like so your shit was all broken, and we talked about how your shit was all broken last week. And like you're going, so my audio probably doesn't sound very good right now, and I'm like sitting here going, yeah, and mine sounds amazing and stuff. And then like halfway through the show, I like had to cough. This is like 50 minutes into the show, and I had to cough. And so normally what I'll do is my microphone has a mute button on it, so I'll hit the mute button and then cough and then unmute. And as I'm watching Audacity, I see my cough show up, and I'm like, shit. What? And then I'm like looking around. I'm looking around like crazy. I went back when I edited everything together. I went back and took the cough out because it was just loud and obnoxious and would have made everything even worse. But like, I'm like tapping on my microphone, going, "Wait, is this the right microphone? What's going on here?" And I'm not seeing anything show up in the Audacity, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, okay, the only other microphone I'm seeing waveforms in Audacity this whole time. The only other microphones I have hooked up are my webcams, and the lights are not on either of them. So I'm like, okay, it can't be those because the light turns on when you use those as a microphone. So I'm like, what is even going on? Eventually, I was like, oh, I guess it's probably just using the blue microphone, and the mute button isn't working for some reason. Cool. There we go. That's what it is. And then lo and behold, it wasn't. It was a webcam somehow being sneaky.
Yep. So the entire time, and my mic actually didn't sound that bad. It clipped every once in a while, but it's not. I mean, maybe it's just because next to yours.
Oh yeah, that was the whole reason. I wanted to make you sound better.
Thank you. I appreciate that, dude. That's good.
It's funny. Afterwards, I'm like looking around all over the place, like looking for microphones that I have plugged in that weren't my webcam. Like, what is even going on? Like, there was a guy that I used to raid with in Classic that for all the way up until like halfway through Naxxramas, so a good year of raiding with this guy, like his microphone sounded like shit, and everyone was like, "Dude, your mic sounds like shit." And he's like, I don't know why you guys, it's a really good microphone. And like he was like, fine, I'm just gonna go buy a new microphone. He went out and bought a new one and brought it home and plugged it in. He's like, okay, how do I sound now? And everyone was like, exactly the same. Nothing has changed. And he was like, what? What's going on? And then he like starts whacking the microphone, and we're like, yeah, we don't hear that at all. He starts poking around, and he finds like an ancient one of those like white desktop microphones that's like plugged into his computer, behind his computer, sitting next to the fan. And so for like a year, we've been listening to this guy's computer fan. It was pretty amazing. And that was exactly the sort of thing that after recording last week, I was like, oh God, did I just do that?
The tap test fixes everything. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Some ancient fucking
80s
beige colored microphone.
Paleolithic era.
Man. Speaking of shitty mics, the Survivor Games happened this weekend.
Yeah.
And that, it was
There are a lot
amazing.
of shitty mics in the Survivor Games.
Oh yeah, but they what was funny actually the way they did the casting and everything, they had
Especially
a
that time that you were in the Survivor Games. Oh,
I made it awesome.
But you were a mic and you were shitty.
Oh yeah. There's like a double thing there.
Yes.
The caster feed was so first off they have like legit actual spectator tool where they're able to kind of like fly around and select the name on a list and then zoom over to them and everything, and it was
Instead of like the early days where they had to like use scripts to hide a helicopter and stuff.
yeah, and then get a Steam account that you're willing to have banned and lose that copy completely because Battle Eye was enabled.
Or do it on your main account.
Fucking. No! They told me that the Battle Eye was off. Anyways. That was the end of my DayZ days. Why'd you stop playing DayZ? Fuck you. So yeah, the system was like really well set up. The casters did a pretty decent job. Honestly, after a while, I switched over to Shizzle, and Shizzle actually did a much better job. So basically, the audio from Shizzle, and then I had the video feed from the other guys. So it was a little bit of a delay, a little awkward, but still, it was. And going off like the shitty mics thing, it was kind of neat that they're running around and they'll see a couple guys like fighting and like they'll be like taunting each other. Like it's like a relatively serious competition, the Survivor Games and not Survivor Games 5. And these guys are running around like no, come back, have my babies, like just yelling really weird or random shit like normally would when they're on a stream. But it was a lot of fun, man. I was obviously crushed when Shizzle died immediately. I was like, yeah, Team Shizzle, woo woo woo, yeah. Oh, Team Bad, woo woo.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad for the casters eventually because they started having some serious server issues.
Oh man, yeah.
And the casters had to sit there and just vamp for an hour. And that is vamping is the hardest thing about casting. Learning the game, whatever, that's easy. Mm-hmm. Learning to talk quickly and explain what's going on and notice things, that's more difficult, but still pretty easy. Mm-hmm. It's the nothing at all is happening, and I have to keep people entertained so they don't all leave. And this is going to take God knows how long. And especially when it's something where you don't have ad breaks or something that things are going to jump to. At least at BlizzCon, when they're having technical issues or whatever, they'll be like, all right, well, we're going to play these ads for a little while, and they'll play that, and they'll have video that's prepared for just that sort of eventuality. When it's a lower end production, which sounds like I'm saying a terrible thing, but the production value overall was pretty good.
Uh-huh.
But when it's something that isn't quite to the lengths where you're saying, okay, we're going to have all these different videos prepared for when something breaks, then you just got to sit there and talk about anything.
They had all those little cards with the information that they were basically just riffing off of.
Yeah, and thank God for those.
I know.
Otherwise, what would have happened?
They're reading card after card. It's this guy, he likes this and long walks on the beach and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It was just oh, man.
Going through the list going, and we looked at this guy earlier, but I don't think we read this bit of text. And you're like, oh, man. Poor guys.
It was a blast though. Oh
yeah.
I mean, I'll get into the tech stuff later, but in terms of the actual event, in my mind, Sacriel won because Sacriel actually went through and just wasted a ton of guys, survived a ton of firefights. He should have died a billion times over, but he ended up dying at the end to a group who was basically, if I recall, they were pretty much not really part of majority of the action for most of the time. It was basically an outskirt runner.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way for future Survivor games to sort of fix that. Find ways to force people into actually participating, because it seems like the general strategy for most people is wait until Sacriel kills everybody, then try to kill Sacriel.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
That's it.
I mean, have you actually seen the movie Hunger Games?
I saw the first one.
So in the first one, when they're like, if somebody's sitting in a place for too long or whatever, they want to keep the action going, keep the ratings high. They like set the place on fire or release crazy dogs or something,
Yeah.
Like that's something that would work. It's like if somebody's basically just camping, like I get it that camping a little bit and setting up a good, getting a good prone and basically just sniping. I get that's part of a strategy. But when you're sitting there like almost the entire match and there's nobody anywhere near you. It's time to set your ass on fire.
Yeah, like, I wonder if it could be something where, like, they say, if you've been alone for 5 minutes and no one has come anywhere near you, we will give your position to the entire server, sort of thing. So now everyone knows where you are.
Yeah. Yeah, like a timer or something like that. Like, you have to. Yeah.
Or even there could even be, like, a beacon that shows up where you are so that people can see, like, oh, there's someone over that way.
Yeah.
And like start giving out information like he's over this way. He's at 50% health. He has a broken leg. Like the longer you sit there. Yeah. I feel like there's ways to solve it. There's lots of creative things that you could do in that sort of situation that would be really cool.
Things that won't happen in DayZ.
Yeah.
But there are two highlights though. That I got from. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff. Everything that Sacriel did was a highlight, pretty much. But watching Thad on his journey alone for almost the entire time was just so good. And then like even during the server issue part, if you're watching his stream, like he's just sitting there just trying to like entertain people and just trying like playing all these little videos, whatever, just trying to like keep things going. And then some guy jumped in into TeamSpeak and he's all like, Hey, I just want to let you know we're gonna do a server rotation and all that. And he's like, okay. What's that? And he's like, oh, well, they're going to do like, server rotation. He goes, explain it like I'm 5. And he's like, I'm just a messenger, man. I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
And then he starts having a conversation with this guy, just like, I have no idea what the hell it means. They're gonna rotate or flip a switch or something. I have no idea. You know
how in the oven you're supposed to pull something out and rotate it? It's basically like that, but with servers.
And then Thad, I thought Thad was gonna die of starvation like the entire time because he was so low on health, and he's like running, and then all of a sudden he just like he gets in a firefight. He finally gets in a firefight, and he was dodging all kinds of stuff. All he had was a stupid fucking flare gun, and he was dodging all kinds of bullets and everything, man, like the Matrix. And then all of a sudden, just boop, unconscious. He had gotten shot. And usually when you're unconscious, typically you bleed out or somebody comes over and shoots you in the face, and that's pretty much it. He was unconscious for how long? Do you remember?
It was at least 2 minutes. Like, it was long enough that you start going, well, it's been too long now, he's dead. He got hit, he's bleeding, he's dead. Like, any second now it's just going to say, you are dead. Respawn, or whatever.
I had the caster stream and Thad stream up at the same time. And when the casters just happened to be looking at him to basically cross him off the list, right?
Yeah.
When he stands up and he rises from the dead. And he's like, oh my God, I'm alive, oh my God. And I'm like jumping up and down the living room. I'm like, yeah, run, Dad, go get a cheeseburger somewhere, please.
Go find a tree, hide. Yeah. Yeah, Thad's stream was Thad's stream was intense for a whole lot of nothing that happened on it. Was nonstop non-action. It was Thad's stream. Like, there was shortly after that, he like started to go, or maybe it was before that. I don't remember exactly. No, it was shortly after that. He like started going along the tree line that was there, and like I had both the caster stream and Thad stream up at that point.
Yeah.
And so I'm like watching the caster stream, but listening to Thad and glancing over at Thad from time to time. And they start going, oh, and it looks like Thadrius is about to walk into, I don't remember the names of the people that he was about to walk in. There was a 2-person group that was right there. He was about to walk into these 2 guys. And then literally like I'm watching Thad stream, and he goes, actually, no, maybe I should go back into this town. And he like turns around and goes back in, and they like they're following him. So he turns around and he's now heading towards them, but he like just wanders around them somehow. And this is this complete, like, he straight up Mr. Magoo'd his way back into that town. It was like just walking along, accidentally doing everything perfectly right, dodges these people perfectly. And like his chat room blows up. Everyone's like, he didn't know! He didn't know! It was amazing. And then he sat in that house for an hour, almost starving to death.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And then like
that's why it was nonstop, non-action, because the server kept going down, and you're like, oh my god, when it comes back up, he's gonna starve to death. And then they'd be like, okay, everybody load back in. Okay, everybody has to sit where they are and wait. And he's like, I'm starving.
I know. I thought he was going to... his entire stream is black and white, man.
Yeah.
Like, from front to back, it's just black and white.
DayZ Noir.
And you know what's funny? When he died, when he got back up, a couple minutes while he's laying in the house, I think, like, after the fact, he's going through his inventory. He's all like... oh, my helmet's like been destroyed. It's
yeah.
Like, holy shit. Like and I felt like an asshole because I had just tweeted him like before that. I was all like, look at you and your fucking neon helmets. Like out there in a tactical game. And then I just saved his life. It's like, okay, well, I'm a jerk then.
Yeah, he was like, my derpy helmet saved me. And I'm like in his chat room going, it's not derpy now, is it?
It was a great event. The only thing that would have made it better is well, if it wasn't DayZ, honestly. But like they've come so far. Like when we did the first Survivor Games, when it was actually called the Hunger Games with a Z, it was like we were using third party, we were using bot and scripter software, right?
Yeah.
And it was still super clunky and just crappy. And now it's like the system they had was much better, but the engine is still not good. For those who play it a lot, you get used to it. You know, yeah, you get used to it. But one of the
I'm gonna click on this thing, and it might not actually work the first 3 times.
I know, exactly. Yeah, you get used. Sometimes I don't know. There's nothing else I can really draw an analogy to. But the thing that killed me the most was every time there was some action, they would have to go to it. So towards the end there was a bunch of people dying because they're basically all relegated to this area that was the size of like a football field, but it was a bunch of camps, right? It was the north camp, the campground, or the military campsite at the airfield. Not a very big area, lots of action, lots of deaths. And the camera guy still missed so much stuff. He'd be like, "Oh,
yeah,
what happened to so and so? Oh, and he's bleeding out. Oh, who killed him? We don't know. We'll wait until the streams check in who killed who." But God, that sucked, man. Like, and that's why I tweeted H1Z1. It's like if you guys put in a spectator mode, which you're gonna have, and a replay system of any type, just any type, even if it's a first-person replay, right? It doesn't have to be something fancy. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like SOE now Daybreak's strategy with H1Z1 is, what's DayZ doing? Well, we can do it better than that.
Oh, I know. We don't have to waste our time on an engine. That sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we have this other engine that's good. We have these developers that are good. Like, we don't have to learn how to do things. We can just look at this and go, oh, these are the mistakes that they've made with this system. Let's do that, but better. And I would love to see H1. I think H1Z1 needs a lot more fleshing out before it could really make a very entertaining Survivor Games. Mm-hmm. But I would love to see one done in that game. Or hell, like Bohemia could figure out how to make DayZ not suck in terms of the actual software, and that could be cool too. But either way, like, these Survivor Games things are so, and like they had such heavy like promotions from Astro and everything going into this, like really, really fancy ESPN style graphics popping up and stuff. Like I thought I saw that and I was like, oh, that actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
good job, guys. But yeah, like so much of the time there's so much going on. Like if you don't have an instant replay, you need 4 camera guys whose job is to watch different things, and you need to be able to switch between them.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to put on like a delay or something and have people watching all the streams and then basically swap to them whenever, I don't know, like.
Well, I mean, you could have a guy who is see, how could you do this? You could have like 4 streams that are hidden, or like no one knows what the name is, and they're listed as playing like Donkey Kong Country or something. I don't know, something that nobody's gonna find them very easily, and have them just be video. And no, but the delay would still be too much.
They could just have 4 clients running, or like a number of clients running, just watching them.
Yeah,
and just following them,
or find a way to get 4 people in the same room and have them all watching on different PCs and feed the video into a main control thing.
This is like some serious like production creep here.
Yes, yes.
Let's fly all these guys out to the studio.
No, but seriously, I think that something like this would be really, really cool with that.
Yes.
Like,
no, you're right though.
This.
You're right. Like there's so much. I mean, it's not like watching. Obviously, like it's not like watching CS:GO. It's not like watching a Call of Duty match. It's like it is. A lot of it is very calculated, and there's so many different ways you could play it. You know, you could go just balls deep with a shotgun and just hope you get as many kills as you can. If you don't have a shotgun, you could pick up a fire extinguisher and start swinging at somebody. You know, like this, like. It's basically you scavenge and you kill, and it's like it's so much better. It's like it was like 3 hours, I think, was the entire event, but still, it was really worth watching.
Well, like when you think about it, the Survivor games and DayZ in general are kind of like the violent video game version of golf, in a way, because it's like golf is nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. Something really exciting is happening. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Like when you see a golf tournament on TV, you don't see like, oh, and this guy looks like he's about to make a shot. And he made his shot. That's cool. Now we're gonna watch him as he walks all the way over to his ball and then hits it. No, you've got multiple cameras going all the time, and it's not like there's instant replay. Like it's not like they can say, "Excuse me, can you take that shot again?" Like they're just recording everything all the time.
Yeah,
and I think that's the sort of thing that something like the Survivor games should be doing, where they just have multiple cameras. Like, how cool would it be? How ridiculously cool would it be if, and this is way, way beyond what anybody's really capable of at the moment, but if they had an observer designated to each team who is just following them around, watching what's going on, and reporting in when something starts happening.
Yep.
And, or the commentators are watching and they see that these people are about to run into these people, so then they say, hey, let's check in with Shizzle's team and see what's going on over there. And you go over there and you look at them and like, oh, he's been scavenging for a little while. He's got these items, and they pull up like a list of the items that he's currently got. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
That'll never happen because it requires way too much work, but that'd be super cool.
Yeah, it's there's so many visual cues that are already in. Like if you watched it, you know, there's the nameplates that show up on everybody's head, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously the client knows when it's looking in direction of a person. So it's like if you have like 9 feeds going with everybody, or more than that, like 9 small camera feeds going, you can have it basically flash when somebody has somebody else in there, when someone has another player in their frame.
Yeah.
And then you could basically switch to it. And there's so many different things you could do to make it better. These are all things that are like probably not going to happen. But H1Z1
not in
could.
DayZ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Not in DayZ. But H1Z1 could do it, man. It could do it.
I feel like if either developer is gonna do something like that, it would be Daybreak. Mm-hmm. Just because they've got the experience under their belt to be able to pull it off and not have it take 4 years to actually do. I still don't think that they would, because it's kind of a lot of investment for a relatively niche thing. Because who knows how much that would actually do for their bottom line at the end of the day.
I mean, you saw how much they pushed PlanetSide 2 into esports. They had casting it at conventions, and like, they really pushed that angle. So this is something where they could probably get something going.
Possibly, but I think it's important to note that with all that push that they did into PlanetSide 2, it still wasn't profitable. Like, it still didn't actually make them enough money to not have a bunch of people laid off.
Yeah.
So that happened.
Speaking
Speaking of Daybreak laying off a whole bunch of people, Daybreak laid off a whole bunch of people.
Oh man, like, so we got the news. Was a Monday morning, I think. I think it was like early Monday or Tuesday or something. It was Tuesday.
Something like that. Yeah.
But
I don't think it was Monday. I actually thought it was yesterday.
I've lost a day. Because of the sick kid. So
right. It might have been yesterday.
Oh
but
man, it was yesterday. Yeah. Wow. I have no sense of time today.
Which would be Wednesday. So if you're listening to this on a day that isn't Wednesday or Thursday, whatever, it was Wednesday.
Yeah. There you go. So they laid off quite a few people. The ones that we know about are typically the higher ups. David's Smoke Jumper. This guy is. We had an opportunity to interview him, obviously about Landmark, and he is like. And I even talked to him on the side. He is like so pumped about the product, man. He loves EverQuest, and it's just like he was so. I was like, wow, man, like this guy really loves his product, and he was a really great interview because he was just like super pumped the whole time. And he's gone. Linda Carlson. I know Linda Carlson from. I remember when they announced that Star Wars Galaxy was closing down. And they announced it. I believe they announced it at SOE Fanfare before it became SOE Live. And I remember she was like almost in tears about the whole thing when she was kind of giving the announcement to everybody. But she dresses up as a dwarf and she does a really, really good cosplay. But yeah, she's the head of community, like the director of community, and she's gone. Like and obviously there's a ton of other people here that, I mean, I know some of these names. I know that I've talked to these people before, and it's just like, holy crap! Like this is, especially on the EverQuest side, like their lead people are gone. This is like Brevik, basically being fired from Diablo, like it's like that.
Yeah, like it's tough because like these are obviously very high profile people, made very good names for themselves and so on. Like they've done good and they have a lot of fans and they have a lot of people that follow them closely, and so it sucks to ever see anyone lose their job. But especially when it's someone who is so near and dear to the community that has sprung up around the game. But it's also like, we were talking last week about how they lost $60 million last year.
Yeah. And what did we say? We said that if they didn't get sold, they would lay off a ton of people. But getting sold doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to lay off people.
Yeah. It basically what we had said was them getting sold was good news in the fact that it meant there was a chance that they wouldn't lay off a whole ton of people. Right. Obviously, that chance did not work out for them.
Oh, man.
But, like, it's the sort of thing that sucks to say. But, obviously, the company has not been doing well for itself. And when the company has not been doing well for itself and it isn't making money, and in fact has managed to misplace $60 million somehow, which I doubt was in the couch cushions. Like, that's not money that you just, whoops, it was in my pocket and I did the laundry. Oh no. Like that's some serious cash that's just up and disappeared or been lost. It's not up and disappeared. It was spent in ways that weren't intelligent. Like, that's the sort of thing that it comes down to the leadership and the management. So those are the sorts of people who this should fall on, I think.
Yeah, So I can only speculate. I don't know exactly what happened. I can only speculate from, being laid off and from having to lay off people for various reasons. What sometimes happens, especially when you're in an upper management or a lead position, for an extended period of time is you reap the benefits of tenure to the point to where you every year you're getting a little bit of a raise, and even if it's 5%, 5% on one year and then 5% on the next, and it's like year over year, you're basically making just so much more money by the end of a decade plus.
Yeah.
That and especially in an industry where there are a lot of people in this field now versus a decade and a half ago, and so those positions could potentially be filled by someone else, not necessarily anybody better, of course, but definitely someone cheaper. And again, I have no idea if that's the reason why. Maybe they made too much, whatever. But like when I see a lot of leads, leads for projects being let go, either that project is getting closed down or those people have been with the company for so long that they are just making too much for their position.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And that's the sort of thing that an investment management firm that is just looking to reduce the bottom line would look and see like, holy crap, we're paying them how much? Yeah, they got to go.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah. So that's entirely possible as well. I think that like it's pretty hard to say that PlanetSide 2 was an overall success. Like you can go, it has built-in Twitch streaming and is one of the least streamed games on Twitch. Right. Like that to me says something. You don't see anybody playing it really anymore. Obviously people still play it, but like,
yeah, of course,
it's just not something that's been doing very well. They're not making any money off of EverQuest to speak of at this point.
We should say Next and Landmark.
Yeah. Like I can't imagine they're making a ton of money. Is EverQuest 2 even still around?
EverQuest 2 and EverQuest is still around. But I mean, to say no money, it's like they're still making money on that product. It's just
sure.
But like EverQuest Next and EverQuest Landmark, like there's no like released product. Like it's not out. Especially Next.
Exactly. And H1Z1 just hit early access. Mm-hmm. It remains to be seen whether or not that'll turn out to be a profitable product or not. But like, they at least have a lot of lessons learned from other products. So basically, my point with all this is they're a company that it's easy to estimate that they probably haven't been making much money. I mean, obviously they haven't been making much money. They lost a lot of money last year. And that's the sort of thing that when the rubber meets the road, as it were, mm-hmm. You don't go, oh crap, these products aren't making money. Well, we should fire the kitchen staff. We should lay off the QA testers. No, that's the sort of thing. Oh, $60 million. That's not a problem that you say, well, the reason that we're losing all this money is because we don't have the right tools programmer or something like that. That's the sort of thing that then comes down and you have to say, okay, no, listen, the reason that this is happening is because the people in charge are making bad decisions. And that is a shitty thing for me to say in the face of people having just lost their jobs. And I absolutely wish them the best. And I hope that it's not the case that was why things are happening. Like, I hope that there was something else going on.
This is basically reasons why people get laid off.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it could also just be that they were just making too much money. A lot of them had been there for ages. So it could just be that I forget the name of the Columbus Nova. Is that the name of it?
I think so. Something Nova.
It could have been that they decided these people make too much money. We just need to get rid of them. It could have been that they decided, well, we're not going to bother investigating anything and we're just going to get rid of these people. Who knows? Any number of reasons. But the writing was definitely on the wall, and I can't say as I'm surprised by the layoffs happening and happening to the people that they happen to, unfortunately.
I mean, there's some real passionate people there. Some of them are like considered the lifeblood of their game, especially when you have like, I think it was like the EQ2 lead Steve. But I mean, like, so just in general, like you have people that were
the EQ2 lead Steve.
Yes, I'm trying to remember his name. Sorry, I should open up this link and go through the list here. But there's when the people who are considered to be like the face of the company to the players, especially like to the hardcore long-term players, when they're gone, like that hurts. That really hurts. The people who are doing the interviews, who have been in touch with the community, like that's rough.
Yeah,
really rough.
Except for when it isn't, like when Mark Kern left Red 5.
There are certain times when, where it's different.
Poor Red 5.
Yeah, good luck to all of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how many people were laid off, but like the list is pretty significant. I don't know how many people work at SOE. I've actually never been to their office. But I know a lot of people that still work there. So I mean, I have no idea how to how to speculate how many people work there now, but they've already said that nothing's gonna happen to EverQuest Next. It's still on track. It's still gonna happen. H1Z1 seems to basically have lost very few people.
It seems like they kept as much of the H1Z1 team as possible. There were a couple people that, but like Jimmy Wiz is still there.
Clegg
is still there, yeah. So
we'll see what happens. Hopefully, this is the only round of layoffs that occur at Daybreak, because I mean, it happened so soon after the acquisition that people were just like, "Oh, yep, see, you told you, yep, that's it, I'm out, see ya."
Yeah,
I'll go to freaking Crowcraft or whatever the heck the game is.
Yeah, and I think the reality is, it probably was part of the agreement almost. Like, yeah, we will buy this, but we're gonna lay off a whole bunch of people right afterwards. Yeah. Just so that you're aware. And then like SOE would be like, oh, it's fine, we were gonna lay them off anyway. So, or Sony would be like, we were gonna lay them off anyway, because really, this was gonna happen one way or the other. There was a chance that an investment management firm picking them up would be like, well, let's give them a chance to see what they can do. But you don't post up a $60 million loss and everyone keeps their job over it. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's pretty much the bottom line.
Yeah. So best of luck to everyone who has been laid off from Daybreak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of things, I'm not good at the transition thing. You want to get this one?
So speaking of people getting laid off, I don't know anything about Shadow Realms.
That was perfect. Yes. You're right. You're absolutely right. If you thought that Evolve had little hype prior to the week leading up to launch, it's obvious that you've not heard. It's obvious that the Shadow Realms had like negative hype, and it's not. It's
literally the only thing I have ever seen or heard about Shadow Realms, and I'll be honest, it's been a very busy few months for me. It's likely that there was something obvious somewhere that I completely missed. But the only thing that I had seen about Shadow Realms up until it showed up in our podcast document today was the last time it showed up in our podcast document. And then we ended up not talking about it.
It's our fault. No. So Shadow Realms was a really neat. It was a really neat concept. You're not going to find very much info on it. Maybe a couple interviews. We did an interview with Gabe Amatangelo. His last name is so ridiculous. But we did an interview with him.
Is his name Gabe Imatangelo?
It's basically Michelangelo. It is Gabe Michelangelo, but with Amon at the beginning.
Imatangelo.
There you go. That's about right. So he was the I think he was the lead designer for Sweater, right? And then he moved over to this project. I got an opportunity to play it. It wasn't on the floor. It was basically in like a hotel meeting room. I went there for this whole event where we basically sat down, we talked to them, and they gave the gist of the game. And essentially what it is, it's a dungeon crawler, 4v1. And this is like, I basically played this and Evolve, and I was like, wow, Shadow Realms is so much better than Evolve. I like Evolve, but Shadow Realms was so much more fun. The 4v1 aspect of this one, though, is much more Dungeons and Dragons or D&D oriented, where you had a game master, essentially, who would be this like kind of a ghoulish figure. And you would set up traps and set up all of these different, and it set up, you'd even place different mobs in certain rooms. And everything would essentially be, procedurally generated in a sense, because you are changing everything, or not procedurally, but just random to the player. who's on the team of 4. The team of 4, it kind of had its look and feel like the Secret World, modern day. You have guns, knives, weapons, and I think some magic abilities and whatnot. But they would have to basically make it through your dungeon, and then at the end you get to fight them in one of your forms, right? Or you have multiple forms. But while they're progressing, you can set up traps like on the fly, like drop bombs or trigger certain traps, or even possess some of the monsters that you put in play. And that monster becomes like big and swole, and you can start like swinging on them. One of the coolest things that they had that I loved so much, and it got me so excited about the game, was one ability. It was an ability that allowed you to clone one of the players exactly, and you could start hacking away at other players. And when they turn around, you could be all like, "What's up? What?" Like you look just like them until somebody hits you. When somebody targets you and hits you, then you get like a glow or something about you, and it basically tags you. But that ability was really neat because it was different from any other game that you've really played. It's like, oh, you're sitting there fighting alongside somebody, and I was sitting there killing other mobs. Like, oh, what's up, killing mobs? Oh, shake, just taking them out. But it was just a neat mechanic, and they had a lot of mechanics like that. And so I was really excited about the game because it was very simple, and it looked like something that people would definitely be into from a small lobby co-op gameplay perspective. And then they said they're gonna can it, or cancel it, or postpone it indefinitely, whatever it was, specifically the verbiage. And I was like, it's not because the game sucked. It's 100% because the new Star Wars movies. That is it.
What?
That's it. No, that's that. So I mean, this is BioWare Austin, right?
Right.
And
Are they developing the new Star Wars movies?
No, but Star Wars: Old Republic is still a thing.
Yeah, I guess.
And so they're probably looking at at these guys, and they're like, hey, we need to get you guys over to start working on new stuff for SWTOR, because the movies are going to come out and people are going to start looking at the franchise as a whole, and all the IPs being used for whatever other products, mobile and of course PC and now MMO. And they're probably going to go and do a ton of stuff with that to basically take advantage of the hype. And it's, it's smart, like Evolve is not, I mean, the reviews are great for some reason, but it's not necessarily doing good from anybody that I know,
Yeah, it seems interesting, but it seems like the sort of game that, the problem I have with Evolve, and I would probably have with Shadow Realms also, to be honest, is that I tend to play games like that with friends.
Yeah.
And it sucks to be like, I'm going to play with you until all of a sudden I have to play by myself for a while. And I don't know, that kind of puts me off of the concept a little bit.
There was a lot of... the game was fun when I played it, but I was also playing with a bunch of friends. There, we all had headsets on, and we were all having a good time, and it was fun when I played it. But you're right, when you can't
It'd be
play
fun
with friends...
5 friends.
Yeah.
If you have 4 friends, then that's a little bit less ideal.
But when you get into a pub, you basically can't. You have to rely on somebody else to actually know what they're doing. And if it's a game that is heavily reliant on a class to perform a function, and that person can't perform that function, then the entire team falls apart. And
yeah, that's true.
In this game, we were constantly chasing around a monster, and if the monster is good at being that monster and playing the game in general, then... And you have the hunter who can't, or a specific hunter, like a trapper, I think it was, who can't throw out a containment wall or something. Then you're screwed. You're basically running around tagging this thing. He flies away, gets bigger and stronger. You go around, you tag him again, gets bigger and stronger, and then he gets to phase 3 or whatever, and he comes down. And he basically just annihilates all of you guys, and that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
Not all matches obviously would go like that. I'm sure there's some that work out pretty well. And then as more people get to learn the game, then that problem will become mostly non-existent. But it doesn't necessarily make the game fun at launch when there's a learning curve with any particular class.
Yeah, Evolve was a game that, like, honestly, the way you're describing Shadow Realms does sound a lot more interesting to me than Evolve. I watched, there was like a little esports tournament that they had for Evolve at something.
Yeah, it was like
somewhere.
E3, I think.
Yeah, maybe, that I was watching, and the whole time I was watching it, they were like, and the monster's done this exactly predictable thing that the monster will do, and now the hunters are doing this exactly predictable thing that the hunters will do, and it seemed almost paint by numbers gameplay, like when this happens, do this. When this happens, do this. Now, obviously, I have not played the game. I haven't purchased the game. I don't really know enough about the actual gameplay to want to purchase it, but this was certainly something that kind of turned me off from it. Like, I was watching this tournament, and I am a sucker for any esport. Like, you could have competitive Angry Birds, and if the commentary is good, I will watch that. Like, I will be all over that. I am a sucker for anything that's happening that's being commentated and made exciting.
Yeah, the analysis side, and then you have the color commentary for Angry Birds. That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I could not get into watching Evolve. It just was not doing it for me at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is interesting. I'm curious to see like what content comes out for it in the future. But I mean, with so many things behind well, first off, Shadow Realms canceled, sucks.
Yeah.
But with Star Wars coming up, we might actually see some cool stuff coming out of SWTOR. We'll see. Yep. But yeah. So speaking of Evolve's content, oh man, I think almost everybody has seen this. All I have is a screenshot of the actual list of pre-purchase options, but it's ridiculous. Like, it looked like it was on Kotaku or something like that, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to sort of question this list in the sense that it's entirely possible that it's just been laid out in a really stupid way. Because you can often say, so basically this list goes down, it's like, it lists off 8 different ways you can buy Evolve and get things.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can buy the game for $60 and then buy this thing. You can pre-order the game and you get this thing with it, but then you also have to buy this thing. You can pre-order the digital deluxe edition and you'll get this stuff, and then later you'll have to buy this extra thing or something like that. And like, just make a fucking flowchart.
Like,
but B, it also does sort of shine, like it does get a little bit ridiculous, because like trying to decipher from this list what the actual options are. Like there's the game, there's the digital deluxe edition, and then there's the like PC Master Race edition or something, PC Monster Race. Yeah, because they didn't want to say PC Master Race, so instead they said PC Monster Race, which is more offensive because now I just hate them for saying that. And then there's also like, you can unlock stuff through playing the game, or if you pre-purchase, it's unlocked immediately. There's like a season pass thing that you can buy, or you can also buy things individually later. And like, it lists that as 2 different options, like buy the $60 game and then buy the season pass, or buy the $60 game and then buy things individually, which, whatever, if you want to do that, then that's cool. I feel like this would have been much better presented if it was like, here are your 3 options to purchase right now.
Yeah.
And what you get with them.
Yeah, with like it's like when you go to get like a server space or something, or some kind of service where they have like the 3 columns and like the dots that indicate here's the basic and here's the premium and here's the ultra edition.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, I totally get the, like, why is buying this game so fucking complicated? Like, angle of it. Like, what? Like, why do I need to know all of this? Why am I planning out my next 6 months' finances at the moment when I'm trying to figure out how I want to purchase this game? Like,
it's just so convoluted, man. Like, I could take this list and I could basically split it up into the first 2 groups would be pre-purchase and buy, because pre-purchase is gonna go away. It's obvious, it's gone, you know. But even with just buy, there's 5 options, different ways you could buy the freaking game.
Yeah, well, and like looking at this, It's actually not very different from how, like, as I'm continuing to try to decipher this, it's not actually that much different to how Borderlands 2 rolled out.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you pre-purchased Borderlands 2, you got the Necromancer class for free. If you didn't, then you had to buy the Necromancer class later. And then when they started coming out with DLC, they had the DLC Season Pass, which you could buy ahead of time to get all the DLC, or you could buy them individually, but it costs more in the long run. And that's kind of how it feels like this is laid out, but it also has the Digital Deluxe and PC Monster Race editions in there. So it's... And of course, like, Borderlands, when it launched, didn't say anything about the season pass for the Borderlands 2 when it launched, didn't say anything about the season pass for the DLC. They were just like, there's going to be DLC later. That was about it. So, from memory anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, it seems like maybe they should have just said, there will be more stuff later. Here are your options to buy right now. But I guess they were trying to tie in the Digital Deluxe edition includes the season pass, which is later, which means that you then need to include what the season pass is and so on. It's messy.
Yeah. Destiny didn't really include what the season pass was. The only thing they gave us was I think just the names.
Well, the thing is that the Destiny's Ultimate Edition or whatever didn't include the season pass, so they didn't need to be this is what the season pass is, because if your pre-order bonus is, or if the difference between your Digital Deluxe edition and your regular edition is the season pass, you need to know what that is. You're not going to be able to say, oh, and also you get the season pass, which has a price point that will determine later and also has content in it that will determine later. No one's going to buy that. Or people are going to buy that and then be upset later when it turns out it's just monster skins and shit. So,
I think everybody remembers when you just buy the game or or actually just the game, and then there was the game or the collector's edition of the game. Everybody remembers that, but I very specifically remember when Mass Effect 2, I believe, was released. 3, and it was depending on where you buy it, you get a certain piece of armor. So you get, you end up getting, I think if you bought it from EA or something, you get the Kingdoms of Amalur armor. If you buy it from GameStop, you get a certain weapon. And it was basically a list of vendors where you could go purchase this thing. Each one had a different thing that you get, but you couldn't really buy something on all of them.
2.
Oh yeah, sorry, maybe it was Mass Effect 2. But still, it was that was a big deal because people were like, well, "What the hell? Do I have to buy 6 versions of this game?"
Had different stats on it and stuff.
Yeah. It was a mess. That was a mess, and that was because now they don't do that anymore. Now it's always just buy the box or buy it digital. They don't really specify where you buy it from. Occasionally you'll see that, but we see this crap all the time.
Yeah.
Where it gets super convoluted and very, very detailed and different things you could buy with it.
And I think the sort of the telling aspect of all this for me personally, at least, is I would prefer microtransactions to all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer if it was okay, the game is $60. Would you like to play this game? Yes. Okay, spend $60. Now that you've spent your $60, would you like to spend this extra $20 to get this other stuff? Would you like to spend this extra $50 to get this other stuff? This section of the game costs $20, buy that. This section of the game costs $10, buy that. I would actually prefer to buy a game and then be immediately solicited to buy other things than to go through this fucking flowchart of, wait, which version of the game should I buy?
I can't wait until they start tying in mobile somehow. Evolve already has a match 3 game where you can level up your hunter in the match 3 game, which I laughed at because I was like, oh great, the game's going casual before it's even launching. Because that came out a month ago before the game launched. But I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing even more options to buy that include something to do with mobile, because when you're selling console games, you have to get that person you have to somehow keep that person wanting to play when they're mobile. And so you're going to develop some kind of app or some kind of tie-in to get people to do it mobile. As a matter of fact, Mass Effect actually did this really well with it was a pain in the ass, of course, but it was the resources that you could gather by basically logging into your phone every day and performing some menial task. They also had a really good, I thought, like third-person shooter.
Yeah, the Infiltrator or whatever it was called.
Yeah, and by doing that, you could also get resources. They had all these different things that you could do in order to get resources for the game. Now, the resources weren't... The only thing they really gave you was basically like the best ending, or you lose fewer people or something, right?
Yeah, the best ending.
The best ending.
Which one was that exactly? What was the good one?
It's just, you lose the fewest amount of people on the way up or something like that.
I think the good ending was the one that we made up for it.
Yeah.
The indoctrination theory.
Oh, so good.
I don't care what you say, BioWare. That's what happened.
Yeah. But no, it's like we're gonna see more mobile tie-ins for sure. I can't recall any other major AAA release outside of Mass Effect and now Evolve that had a full-fledged game launch, basically as a companion, and on two as a game on its own, like a standalone game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of games coming out nowadays that actually have a version of that game that's also on like mobile devices. Like Hearthstone, obviously you can play Hearthstone on your PC, and then now you can play it on your iPad as well. And Android tablets have launched now too, and they're working on the phone version.
Oh dang! You heard it here first,
dang.
Maybe.
No, they talked about that ages ago. But yeah, it's cool to see. I guess.
Yeah.
But
I don't
it's still
mind.
like, yeah, like I don't mind I don't mind companion apps. Like, I had the Destiny companion app for a little while. I didn't find too much use for it other than, like, it was easier to check certain things on my phone than it was to actually go to the NPCs in-game for it because the game's interface sucked. But I had the Destiny companion app. That was cool. Like, World of Warcraft has a companion app. It needs some work, but it's cool. There's things along those lines I don't generally mind. It's when it gets into, in order to properly enjoy this game to its fullest, you have to do this shit on your phone. Like, no, I bought this game for my PC or for my PS4 because I wanted to play it on that.
And we're not saying that this is happening right now, because obviously it's not a thing that you needed for Evolve. But
yeah, and you didn't need it for Mass Effect either.
This is the kind of shit they're going to put in. It's going to happen. They're going to make you download an app in order to...
If it's not this game, it's going to happen with some game eventually.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind the mobile stuff. I don't play games on my phone necessarily, but I have my tablet, obviously, which, by the way, Legend of Grimrock's coming out on iPad. I don't know if you saw that, but that's huge for me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But there's a lot of games, like FTL's already on there. Obviously, Hearthstone's already on there. I have my shields, and every single night I play my shield before going to sleep. And usually it's Happy Wars, which I know it's like some random, like, weird MOBA, but it's actually a lot of fun to play, especially on the controller. But last night, actually, I bought for $5... Slam and deal. Shit. I bought Knights of the Old Republic. I bought KOTOR. And I've been playing it. I only briefly played it before. I wasn't someone who really got into it, because I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm a big BioWare fan. And I became a BioWare fan after KOTOR, you know? So now it's kind of like, let's go back and see what they're doing. So it's funny, like, playing this and seeing some of the things, now that I'm decently leveled in the game right now, but seeing, like, how some of these things have carried over into their other games, you know?
Yeah.
It's like there's so many things you could do with mobile devices. Like,
and I think as long as it's not something that it's actually better for me to stop playing this game on my PlayStation and whip out my phone and do something on my phone, then I'm cool with it. Like, I would actually enjoy that quite a bit. Like, imagine if you were playing Destiny, for example, and oh crap, I've got to go to work. okay, well, while I'm at work, I get breaks every so often. I'll pull out my phone and do something on my phone that's going to help me earn a piece of gear or something. As long as it's not something that, like, if I was sitting at home, I could be earning that piece of gear more efficiently playing it on my PlayStation.
Yep.
But at work, or I'm out somewhere, or I don't know, my PlayStation has gone to the bathroom, something, I don't know, any reason you can think of that means I can't play my PlayStation right now, but I have time to play a game. It would be super cool for me to be able to say, oh, okay, well, I'll get a little bit of something in on my phone and help it out. Like, a ton of people have suggested that you could do garrison missions on your phone. Like, that would be really, really super cool, and it would absolutely be super cool. I will reiterate that there are no plans for that at the moment. Just
You heard it here first, folks.
But
There are no
it's the
plans.
sort of thing, like, it's something that Blizzard's been very, very public and vocal about. Yes, that is a really cool idea, but we're probably not going to do it. Just because
Keep shooting me down on my, like, you heard it here first. I know that they said it before. I'm just trying to say that for the people that didn't hear it the first time.
Okay, you heard it here first if you haven't heard it elsewhere before.
There you go.
Yeah. But like that sort of thing would be really awesome, I think. Like, if you could say, well, I'll do this little menial task, or I will do something else entirely, but it's not quite as efficient as actual gameplay, sort of thing. Like, I would assume that, like, if Evolve's Match 3 thing ends up on the phone, I would assume that's still not as it's not as good of a way to level your hunters than actually playing the game as them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, that I'm totally cool with. It's just when it branches over into, now that you've done all this stuff on your PC, close the game, go get your phone, and do something on that instead. It's like, no, I have a much better device sitting in front of me at the moment. I don't want to go get my fucking phone and have to do it. Not that my phone is actually amazing.
I'm sure it's all right.
It's an LG G3. It's really, really super cool.
Why are there so many G's?
Because it's by LG and they called it the G3.
That's pretty dumb.
Yeah. It's really hilarious in commercials with voice actors that were not told what the title of the phone is, what the name of the phone is, or so on. So they'll say, like, you hear it all the time out here with like Verizon or commercials or T-Mobile commercials or something. So they'll say LG G3.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
That is like, I was like, what is, like, wait, how did somebody get away with doing that? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, with local, like, you know, T-Mobile ads, something like that. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's the LG G3 and stuff like that. And it's funny to me.
It does look kind of nice, actually.
It's a really nice phone. I actually got it hooked up earlier. I figured out, I was having this weird situation going on with my capture card, and I got a cable to be able to capture footage from it onto my computer. So that I can start doing Just the Tip again, which I'm planning to start doing in March. So, hooray. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I pull it up, and I got it working, and I got everything. Like, the issue that you often have with HDMI capture that includes sound is the sound will get desynced very bad. And once it starts desyncing, it gets
It's like impossible,
horrible.
yeah.
It gets horrible
It's
really
never like a
fast.
linear change. It's always like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you'll be sitting there and you're going along just fine, and then all of a sudden things start taking 3 minutes for you to actually hear the sound. And the second that starts happening, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. But I actually pulled it up, and I had it running and working and everything, and I was playing some Trials Frontier. And that game looks really good on my monitor. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah. Like, the cool thing about the G3 is that it's got a 1080p display. Which for an Android phone is pretty good because most of them haven't quite gotten to that point. I know that Apple has had their, like, fucking 4K displays or whatever for a while, the Retina display for a while now, which also looks really, really sharp. But being able to see this, like, Android game that I'm playing on my screen, and it looks better than a lot of, like, PC games that you play. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. Also, Trials Frontier is really cool. Like, it's been out for ages.
Oh,
but
yeah. I played quite a bit of it. The only thing I can't stand is the story in between stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I am such a fan of, you know, Trials on PC because it's basically like when the match is over, next match.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
just
that's
like,
true.
it just shuttles you to the next one, and it's the next one, and then it's just tiered. It's very simple. There's no fluff or anything, but they definitely went into the fluff area with Trials Frontier.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been playing it quite a bit again lately. I played it for a while ages ago, and I started playing it again more recently. And they added a ranked mode, like a ranked competitive mode.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I am so totally hooked on that. It's so much fun.
So funny enough, their other racer game that they have,
They're like Mighty Wheels or something.
Moto Racer.
Moto Racer, yeah.
They have a daily ranked thing
Nice.
that you could go and do to earn like currency or something like that. But yeah, so I was not surprised. I think you tweeted about it or something like that, and I was like, oh, it's about time to put that over there. Huh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a kind of a neat feature. It keeps you logging in every day and
Yeah.
ranked.
And they have they added some new tracks at some point that are like they are the ball busting difficult trials tracks that I love so much. Like I've beaten a couple of them so far, but they are not, and especially when you consider that you can't do half the crazy shit that you can do on PC on a phone.
Yeah, there's no triggers. Like it's just, it's on or off.
Yeah, and not like you can't do things like hook your wheel on the edge of a ledge and flip yourself over either.
Oh man,
that just doesn't work. You can't fap on your phone.
Yeah, I mean
stuff like that. I mean, well, you could, but it'd be weird and probably not help you very much. but no, there's a few tracks that I've hit at this point that are really tough. There's one that I can't beat. Right, I just can't do it. Like the downside is that you can upgrade your bike. So I think that this track, I just need to upgrade my bike and then I'll be able to beat it. Like there's a hill that I can't get my bike to go up. Even when I land it properly, it will slowly slide down the hill. So I think that I just need to upgrade my bike some more and then I'll be able to do it. But even then, like it's really hard to actually land. And they got the stuff like the hills that have jumps in them to land on other hills, and yeah, it's really fun. You should check it out.
All right. I was playing on my Shield because I was trying to get that controller experience, and I was like, wait a minute, like it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
It works. It totally works. Actually, you know what? One thing I noticed with the Shield is there's the gamepad mode where you could basically assign buttons by using an overlay.
Yeah.
To put on top of their overlay and assign it to different keys, which is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do that, sometimes you actually disable the native support for controllers. So I have to go back and like turn off that feature to see if it's maybe it just supports it automatically. In which case, maybe I can FAP.
Yeah, I doubt it, but maybe.
Man.
So I sidetracked us talking about Trials.
Yeah, what
for a
were we
while.
talking about?
We were talking about Evolve and their launch options.
That was a long time ago.
And yeah, companies doing dumb shit, basically, such as now this other thing that you wanted to talk about with space.
Dude,
that's a good segue right there. This other thing that you wanted to talk about with space. Yeah.
Which is
I realized halfway through that I was introducing a thing that you wanted to talk about, and I don't even know what it is.
One thing I noticed this week, and I mean, well, it's pretty obvious the trend is happening, but as we go on, it becomes more and more apparent that it's the trend is leading that way, and it's basically that space is the new zombies. Zombie survival, it's still survival, mind you, right? It's still exploration, sandbox, survival. That stuff is still hot. They just basically took out the zombies and they replaced it with space. It was super easy. And asteroids, I guess. The zombies are asteroids now. Who knows? But it is I welcome it completely because we have plenty of zombie games. I feel like H1Z1 should just be the cap. Just be done. We're done. No more of zombie survival games. And swap over to some of those games. I have 600 hours now in Space Engineers. And I love it. I still love the game. No Man's Sky is looking pretty slick. Now, No Man's Sky is gonna be a bit more exploration, like planet side stuff.
Oh, I'm so stoked for No Man's Sky.
Yeah, but exactly right. But the transition, like being able to go like in and out of atmosphere, like that is fucking cool.
Yeah, well, and I love the idea of there are planets out there that no one else has discovered, and there will always be planets out there that no one else has discovered because we will make more planets if we need to. sort of thing. That's super cool to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not something, it's not too far-fetched. I mean, just on the scale of like my server, right? On my Space Engineer server that I have, it's set up right now. I have an asteroid base set up with like a showroom with like these hot rod style spaceships that I've been building. I have like a Cadillac with like drills on the front, you know. It's got 4 seats for no reason. But anyways, like I have an asteroid base that has been there forever, defenseless, and nobody has found it yet. It is not a very big server. There are plenty of people playing. And it's been there since it was public. It's private right now while I kind of get things under control. But even when it was public, nobody found it. When you're flying around, like it takes, because the asteroid density that I have set up right now is pretty sparse. It takes a while just to find an asteroid, period. Let alone find, one that I'm living on. And so I can imagine with my server, which had 1,500 people go in and out of it according to the logs. Not being spotted. Like if they have a system set up where they have a sparse galaxy or universe where you're flying around and then you might see a planet if you chose the right direction, right? Within, it's a tiny little speck and you go explore it and oh, hey, it's a planet. You might be the only person that actually found that planet. Yeah. That's totally possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, I'm totally seeing, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm totally seeing the whole, like, space is coming back thing that you're talking about. Because obviously space was really cool in, like, the mid-90s for a while, and then it sort of fell out, and then it was werewolves, and then it was zombies. Or there was werewolves, and then it was vampires.
Yep.
And then it was zombies, and now we're coming back to space again. And even in some cases, space zombies. For example, Dead Space. But yeah, like Star Citizen even is something that, like, I feel like, obviously a lot of people are just excited for that game if it ever actually releases. But seriously, when I backed it like 3 years ago, they were like, oh yeah, open beta in March or something like that. And it hasn't happened yet. No, it's because you guys keep giving us money, so we can't. Seriously, stop giving them money. The reason the game has not come out yet is because you assholes keep giving them money so that they come up with more features they have to develop, which delays the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Robert Space Industries DLC. Add shit in later, Christ. But yeah, even like Star Citizen, like I'm sure a huge part of its success is people started going, well, maybe not a huge part, but a part is people have started going, yeah, I could do with a space game. Space game sounds good. Yeah, we'll play a space game. Which means that, of course, in like 5 years, we're going to be like, God damn it, another fucking space game.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. And all these games claim to do so much. Well, not necessarily space. Space Engineer is basically your Minecraft in space with an engineering spin, sure. But like Empyrean is basically Space Engineers, but more PvP focused, and you have the ability to break atmosphere and actually go onto planets, which is something that Space Engineers doesn't offer. And then No Man's Sky basically offers to do everything. And Star Citizen plans to do everything those other ones do, and Eve, and Valkyrie, and Dust. So everything CCP does, and basically everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny actually thinking about it. Like, I think a part of why the space game has sort of come up again is we're getting to the point where expandable technology allows for just vast amounts of area. Mm-hmm. So people start going, well, so like a game like No Man's Sky, it can't really be that you just keep going along, the thinking anyway, it can't really be that you're just going along on one planet and then you find some place that no one's ever discovered before. To which I say, wait, really? Because when you think about it, like, what's going to happen in No Man's Sky is you get to a planet that you can then circumvent in a span of 5 minutes. Now, as a human being possessed of legs, on a planet known as Earth, if I wanted to circumvent the planet with my legs, this would take a while. There is effectively infinite Earth in that I will never be able to explore the entirety of it.
You'll never circumnavigate the entire Earth. It's not gonna happen.
Like, even if I did fly, like, just decided one day I'm gonna get on a plane, I'm gonna round the world in 80 days, right? Even if I did decide to do something like that, I haven't explored everything there is to explore in the Earth. There's gonna be a ton of stuff on the planet that I haven't, and that, like, we've barely explored our own oceans at this point. Like, there's so much space on Earth that it is effectively infinite, to the point that I feel like what's going to happen with this is all these games like Space Engineers, like Star Citizen and so on, are going to come out, and eventually people will get tired of space, but they'll like the ideas that the game's presented in terms of, like, oh, I can just go anywhere, and I can discover new things because no one's actually been to this region before, or someone has, but only like 5 people have ever been here, and most of them forgot about it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, well, why can't I just do that on a planet? Why can't that be in a medieval style game or in a fantasy game, which and fantasy will come back around because it'll be about that time. And why can't we have this in a fantasy game? And it's just, there's just a lot of planet. Like, you think about it, like, as I mentioned earlier, Earth is something that 10 billion people can't have explored the entire thing. What if it was a planet that's just bigger? Like, make the planet bigger. There you go.
Man,
I think that's where we're going to end up with this. Like, space games are going to push forward this idea of there's just a ton of space and you can go and explore all sorts of things. And eventually someone will be like, well, it doesn't actually have to be space, does it?
Yeah, right. It could be something simple as like underwater. You know, it would basically be the same thing as space, just water. And you always have this risk of drowning, or if you go too deep in a ship that you built that's maybe not quite built for it, it could actually collapse on itself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things you could do in water that, even though it's like, oh, it's basically space and water, it's like, no, because there's all these other dangers. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of possibilities. Right now with space, like we've already had this exploration elements in games that are kind of pre-designed, like World of Warcraft, for example. There's a lot of land in World of Warcraft. Like, if you're just running around, like, there's a lot of shit, and you might get to a spot that, you know, maybe on your heat maps is like basically cold. Like, somebody's been there before, but not many, and you're standing in a spot that's like just yours essentially.
Yeah.
But that area does indeed exist, and somebody else has already been there for the most part. With this kind of ever-expanding space idea, like No Man's Sky is saying, it's completely plausible. And the only reason why I really say this is something they could do is because I've actually seen it in action with Space Engineers and hosting my own dedicated server. The way it supports so many people in the same universe operating at the same time without completely destroying your machine. And the vanilla server doesn't do this. You have to get a third-party mod server in order to make this happen. Is what it does. It works with what's called concealment. Whenever something leaves a certain range, it actually just writes it off, and the next time it comes within range, it checks back in with it and says, "Okay, what's your status now? Like, what has changed since the last time? Okay, cool, update it." So if there's somebody that's doing something and building something huge way on the other side of the universe, it does not affect my client whatsoever. And that's how space works in this respect, because they can create these siloed instance, bubbles essentially of space that are yours. And you can, unless somebody else comes within a certain range, you could totally support anything this game is going to throw at you. And even a handful of other people, if they come within range, they'll just experience the same thing that you've already created or have come upon. You're still in a world that has, or a universe that might have thousands and thousands of people. But it's so big that they're just not overlapping. So this whole thing is totally plausible now. As technology gets better, to the point to where we could figure out how to make it so that maybe in a land space, like on Earth, where you can have a housing development, player housing essentially, where it only draws the important elements of your house. You could still see your neighbor's house, and if they leave the house, it'll render that player, but you don't see anything inside of it. It's like a shell. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways of creating these siloed, instanced areas that still include, or that you're not basically exclusive to you. You still see things that happen, but it's basically a trimmed down version of that thing.
Yeah,
That's when we'll see that move to land, essentially, from space.
Yeah, that's basically building off a technology that's been around for ages. Like, I remember creating levels for Descent 3, like, eons ago. And one of the things you had to do in that game was define portals. And it's not like teleport or anything like that. It was just, okay, this is a section that if you're on one side of it, it doesn't render the stuff on the other side. And you had to go, like, your map would suck and the performance would just be absolutely awful. No, excuse me, I'm thinking of Red Faction, not Descent 3. It was Red Faction that I was doing this in. I don't know why that matters. But you had to go through and say that there's these portals, and if you're on one side of it, it's not rendering the architecture on the other side. And if you didn't do that, then your map would run like shit because it's rendering the entire thing all of the time.
Yeah.
But if you put these portals in place, then all of a sudden it only has to render the couple of rooms that you're in. No problem. World of Warcraft does the same thing. It will tell your client, you're not standing at a point where you could ever possibly see any of this anyway, so don't render this bit of shrubbery over here.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
and that's what the pop-in is. Like, if you're running around or flying or something like that, and you zoom in, like, just go crashing into an area, and all of a sudden you see an animal like pop up, it's like that's probably because the animal was not there until you showed up.
Yeah, possibly.
So it's getting better. It's getting better to the point where people are starting to chain these things together and create these gigantic universes. And space is the perfect place to do it. It is the perfect place to refine this type of technology and to get a ton of people in the same zone. It's already happening with, like, Eve, you know?
Yeah.
But in Eve,
like, Eve
you're not...
is all of a sudden a bunch of people are playing Eve again too. Like, I feel like I've seen more people talking about Eve again lately.
Mm-hmm. I'm still subscribed to the Eve sub, and, like, yeah, it's definitely getting more action lately.
Yeah. Yep.
So we'll see what happens, but right now, man, Space Engineer is kind of running my life. Just a little bit, 600 hours deep. Well, I mean, a lot of that's AFK hours, but 600 hours deep, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. I got to show you my Hot Rod collection when I'm done.
Yeah.
Got a whole garage. I got lights.
I'll go in there and punch it, and you'll get really mad at me.
I'll be really upset. I'll do a backup before you come on. I'll tell everybody, nothing is going to be saved from this point forward. Lore's coming.
Yeah, I'll drink half a box of wine and then I'll show up.
And come on down. Yeah. Well, it was if you didn't catch last week's episode, don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't.
This one's better.
We hope.
And next week might be a little delayed. I have to help somebody move. So either we do it before or we do it after. We'll see what news hits.
All right.
But it was nice talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I don't know, actually. I haven't planned that far out. Damn,
I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm gonna figure that out.
What are you gonna eat?
Sausages.